The president has spoken as he makes his pick for the next Supreme Court justice.
In a primetime announcement from the White House, he nominated federal appeals court judge Brett Kavanaugh. KCAL 9 political reporter Dave Bryan has more now on the nominee. Dave?
So the nomination and the announcement was certainly peaceful enough, but the Democrats came out swinging tonight. There's going to be a battle here, folks. President Trump and Judge Brett Kavanaugh stayed away from controversy in the TV announcement this evening, not addressing any of the issues that could cloud his confirmation hearings. But the president and the GOP are confident he'll be confirmed for the court, despite the anger of fired-up Democrats who appear to be fighting an uphill battle. President Trump greeted his nominee to the Supreme Court, named in a primetime TV extravaganza.
Tonight, it is my honor and privilege to announce that I will nominate Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court.
The president touting his pick to replace Justice Anthony Kennedy from Sacramento, a conservative who was often the swing vote on high-profile cases before the Supreme Court.
Judge Kavanaugh has impeccable credentials, unsurpassed qualifications, and a proven commitment to equal justice under the law. There is no one in America more qualified for this position, and no one more deserving.
Do solemnly swear.
When Brett Kavanaugh was sworn in as an appellate judge on the Washington, D.C. circuit in 2006, it was Justice Kennedy who administered the oath. Kavanaugh clerked for Kennedy after receiving both his undergrad and law school degrees from Yale. He was an assistant to independent counsel Kenneth Starr during the impeachment probe of President Clinton. He also served in the White House counsel's office under President George W. Bush, who then appointed him to the bench.
My judicial philosophy is straightforward. A judge must be independent and must interpret the law, not make the law.
At his confirmation hearing in 2006, Kavanaugh said he considered Roe v. Wade settled law.
If confirmed to the D.C. Circuit, I would follow Roe v. Wade faithfully and fully.
But Planned Parenthood officials charge Kavanaugh is anything but neutral on women's rights, including abortion rights.
He's very proud of his ability to basically set up barriers for women to access safe and legal abortions. If you can only access an abortion in the first few weeks, when many women don't even know they're pregnant in the first few weeks, that's not real access. The simple access to birth control is something that Brett Kavanaugh has shown that he does not support.
Despite, during the presidential campaign, having pledged to appoint judges who would overturn Roe v. Wade, President Trump claims he never asked the nominees about their positions on abortion rights.
Throughout legal circles, he is considered a judge's judge, a true thought leader among his peers, universally regarded as one of the finest and sharpest legal minds of our time.
If confirmed by the Senate, I will keep an open mind in every case, and I will always strive to preserve the Constitution of the United States and the American rule of law.
Are you ready for a fight?
Outside the Supreme Court, a fired-up Senator Bernie Sanders urged his supporters to fight the confirmation and stand up for women's rights.
Look, I am not going to kid anybody. This is a tough fight, but it is a fight that we can win. When 70% of the American people support Roe versus Wade.
Well, as we mentioned, clearly Judge Kavanaugh will face some tough questions, as you could see, from Democrats at his confirmation hearings. And the questions will cover more than his position on women's abortion and birth control rights. Some Democrats are already raising questions about a law review article Kavanaugh wrote in 2009, in which he doubted that a president under criminal investigation should have to answer questions. In fact, he went even further, reportedly urging Congress to pass a law exempting a president from criminal investigation and prosecution while in office. Juan, Lena, you can bet that's going to come up at the confirmation hearings, right?